The doctor is in. No religion allowed here, just grace and truth. You've entered the No Religion Zone with Pastor Greg Lilly.
Hey, you've just entered the NRZ, the No Religion Zone. Get ready to be liberated. I want to talk to you today about supply and demand. Supply and demand. And it is going to completely set you free. Religion demands. Jesus supplies. Jesus is the end of religion, right? He's the end of the law. The law demanded. We talked about this briefly several episodes ago. The law demands. If you get out on the highway and you saw the sign, whatever the speed limit is, 70, it's demanding. It's not suggesting. The law is not a suggestion. Well, it might be a good idea not to murder. I just suggest that. I'm just making a suggestion here. You don't have to do it, but it's a suggestion. Nope, the law demands you don't murder. The law demands you drive the speed limit. If you kill, you're in prison. If you speed, you get a ticket. Because the law wants something from you. It's called obedience. Get into line. It controls you. You know, we're free. Are we free? The laws hinder us from being free. So the law itself is demanding things from us we may not want to do. We just pay taxes. Is that what? That's a law, and it's demanding, and we have to do it or we suffer the consequences, okay? So the law demands, Jesus supplies. So let's go back here and figure this out. If deliverance from the law, Romans 7, dead to the law, if deliverance from the law means God no longer requires anything from me, Romans chapter 8, the Spirit now supplies what the law used to demand. Again, till I'm blue in the face, Philippians 2:13. God's not demanding anything from you. He is supplying it to you, for it is God who is at work. What? Supplying Himself, dispensing Himself into you to will and to do His good pleasure. So what He used to demand, He now supplies. So the law no longer demands anything from me, but grace now supplies it. So what God used to demand, He now supplies. So if He wants obedience, He's going to give you the ability to obey. That's the grace of God. That's the difference between law and grace. Law demands, grace supplies. It's real simple. Now, you and I can't just say, you ever have someone say to you, you just got to be honest with yourself. I can't. I can't be honest with myself unless God supplies honesty to me. Well, you got to forgive that brother. I know. I can't. Right now, I'm being honest. I can lie. This is what always got me. And you know, if you don't agree with this, that's fine. But you know, if you have a neighbor you can't stand and you have unforgiveness, they always say, go bake a pie, go mow their grass. That act will make you start loving them. Start praying for them, and you'll start loving them. That's a work. That's demanding me to do something to get something. So if I want forgiveness, I've got to get something. Do something. No, I can't. So God has to supply forgiveness in me for me to be forgiving to somebody else. Okay? That's how it works. That's what we talked about a little bit last week about it being organic. It's God in you supplying the forgiveness. It's God in you creating in you the ability to be honest with yourself. So God is not demanding anything from me. Where He used to demand, old covenant, He now supplies, which is the new covenant. Now, religious people will demand from you. I can't believe you. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's demand, demand, demand. Things to do, hoops to jump through, right? We've already talked about that. So religious people demand. Grace people point you to the supply. See, religion points you to you. You do it. You do something about it. Willpower, self-effort. Grace people says, right there, Jesus. He supplies what you need. Trust Him. Rest in what He's already accomplished, and it becomes a reality in you called fruit, called union, called organic, not mechanical. So this is not by willpower. It's not by self-effort. It's organic. And it's God dispensing Himself in you to will and to do His good pleasure. Right? Now, let me ask you this. Many of you are in the middle of your addictions right now. You're in the midst of trying to change, trying to stop, doing everything you can from steps, secrets, and keys. And it's not working. Because as long as let me tell you something about counselors. And I've got friends that are counselors. And it's a good thing if they're biblical, they're pointing you to Jesus. If they're pointing you to yourself, good luck with that. And I know people that's been in counseling sessions for 20 plus years with the same counselor. That's not right. There's something wrong there. Because they just keep going through the motions and never getting fixed, never seeing the truth of the matter or any of that. So they're just going through the motions. And that's Christians. When they're stuck in religion, they're on that treadmill of try this, try that. Well, hopefully that something new comes down the road, a new teacher, a new book, a new thing to do, and we'll try that. And we'll stay in our addiction, we'll stay in our problems, we'll stay in the mud, we'll stay in the muck and mire of the situation, circumstance, and we'll just never ever, and we'll have this addiction for the rest of our lives. We just grown accustomed to it. It's our best friend. And I knew somebody that died of cancer, and when they were diagnosed from smoking, when they were diagnosed with it, it was too late. But they gave up cigarette smoking, way too late, and they said something that was profound. They said, this cigarette was my best friend. And now that I'm not smoking, now we're talking a whole lifetime of smoking cigarettes, probably a half a pack to a pack a day. When they didn't do that anymore, something was missing. There was a vacuum. They had grown accustomed to that addiction, living with it. So now that it's not there, they feel like they've lost their best friend. That's huge, guys. Think about that. But anyway, many of us are just stuck there. And I've been talking about the vine and the branch of John 14, 15, and 16, and how it's organic, not mechanical. Religion will have you jump through hoops and you really just don't, there's just too many hoops to jump through. And when you do, you're not changed. Because the reality of it is that you're working for something that's already been done in you. And you're not open to it. Your eyes haven't been open to it because they keep pointing you, as we talked about, to the old Adam, rather than showing you that you're in the new last Adam. Now watch this. Let me give you this example. God has given me this example, and it's crazy. And I don't know if I understand all of it yet. I used to be an avid runner, and we would run in I didn't do marathons. I did half marathons and all kinds of races. And we were running we would do a long run once a week, and it would anywhere be from 9 miles to 12 miles, depending upon if we're preparing for a race or we're just keeping in shape. So I would have a long run once a week of 9, 10, 11, 12 miles, depending on where I wanted to be at. And the rest of the days would be like I'd have a 3-miler and run that as fast as I could. All right. Then I would have a day that I would just run hills. I'd just find all the hills in my neighborhood in the city and just run hills. And then the other day would just be an easy, that junk miles, about 5-6 miles, and then my long run. And I just did that every week. And I was avid. I'm a disciplinarian, and when I get my mind on something, I have a lot of willpower. I have a lot of self-effort. I can do a lot of stuff on my own. And I had been doing this for years. And one day I'm probably running a 9-miler, I think it was, if I remember right, 2002. And I'm running, and I'm just, this is what I do, right? And all of a sudden, I'm running, and I'm done. What? I'm done. I stop. At that point, I'm probably 2 miles from the house. I walk home. And I don't run again for a long time. And God keeps bringing that to me. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. That you keep bringing that to me. What happened? I had all this willpower. You don't stop. You keep, to this day, I love to run. I love working out. I love punishing my body. I don't know. I'm crazy. But he takes me to that, and I'm like, what happened? Where'd all the willpower go? Where'd all the goal setting go? Where did all that impetus, where did that drive and desire that kept me going all these years doing all this, running these races and everything? And I'm done. What do you mean? I went home, my wife said, what? I'm done. What do you mean? I'm done. I'm just done. Something just went off in me. I had no control over it. I wasn't running going, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. You know what? My back's hurting. My feet, the blisters on my feet are not worth it. I'm just, buying new shoes and trying to find the right shoes. It's hot, and you got all that clothing rubbing. I'm like, you know what? This isn't worth it. I can see me being done if that was my progression. I can see it. But I'm 5 minutes ago, man, I got my earphones on. I'm listening to rock music, man. I'm just driving energy. Yes, I'm done. And the Lord keeps reminding me of that. You know why? Because something was done in me outside of me for whatever reason, and I still don't know to this day, but here's what the Lord wants to show me, has shown me through it, and I want to show it to you. You just wake up with new drives and desires. When you are organically united to that vine, which is the life of Christ, and you are tied together with Him, union, one, what is true of Him is becoming true of you as you're growing into who you already are in Him. And and I've always said this to my church, I said, if you just walk in faith meaning this, trusting in the life that's in you, and just leaving everything into His hands, you will wake up with new drives and new desires. For it is God who is at work in you to will and to do His good pleasure. Something happened to me on that road that I'm done. And that's exactly how you overcome addictions. I'm sorry. You're going to keep doing it till something goes off in you called new drives, new desires, that's a result of abiding in the vine, the shared life you are one with, and when finally, I don't know how that works, but when the eyes are open and you're done, you'll be smoking one day and you'll go, you know what, I'm done. No patch, no steps. You tried them all, haven't you? Now, if you said, well, my patch worked, can we be honest? Your willpower worked. That was a work of the flesh. And I know you may not like that, but I'm telling you that you can do things in the flesh that looks righteous, that looks religious. That's what religion is. Everything done from the flesh. Self-righteous works. But when you truly wait on the vine, and out of relationship, out of union, there's true manifestations coming through you called the life of Christ. And you're going to wake up and you're going to go, I don't want to drink anymore. Let's put it this way. I don't want to get drunk anymore. I don't think alcohol, just be honest, alcohol, tobacco, food, what have you, it's when you overdo those things. And here's where it comes down to. Do you use those things or do those things use you? Are you Lord over them or are they Lord over you? That's when it becomes an addiction. That's when it becomes a habit. That's when you need it and can't survive without it. Then that's when it becomes a problem. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to addictions. Food can be an addiction. Sweets can be an addiction. Okay? TV can be an addiction. Porn can be porn's wrong, but it's an addiction. It can be an addiction that you can't stop without it. I'm telling you, quit looking at the thing at hand, because you'll never overcome it by looking at it. You'll overcome it by looking at who you are in Christ and keep trusting the life that's within. It's no longer I who lives, but it's Christ who lives in me. And the life I now live, the life you now live, you live by faith in the one. Faith in Him, not faith in your faith, Not faith in secrets and keys and steps. Not faith in a 12-step program, and not faith in your ability to do that 12-step program. But your faith, your trust in His promises that He's already done it. And He's doing it by opening your eyes. Veils are coming off. And when it happens, I promise you, how it works is the caterpillar and the butterfly. The caterpillar is not trying to do anything, but by nature it becomes something else. Just by resting in the nature or plan of God, whatever you want to do. You rest in the plan of salvation. You rest in the finished work. And as you rest in that finished work, that's the caterpillar resting in nature, and in due time he becomes a butterfly. And in time, you wake up with new drives and desires. Until then, smoke yourself to death. Because I'm telling you, there's no other way. And people do that. They will smoke themselves to death because they'll never have their eyes open because the church isn't preaching the gospel right. They're not preaching your identity and in the finished work and who you really are in Him and who He is in you. I know that you're giving people a license to sin. I don't give nobody no license to sin. They're doing it. They don't need a license. They're doing it. It's called addiction. It's called lie. It's called a false identity. And I just, I can say this. Jack Hayford, I read this in Charisma magazine in the 90s. And there had been about 4 or 5 guys in the Foursquare denomination that were getting divorced. And these were guys who were on TBN. Not that they had a show. Now, the one guy did have a show. But the others would just be on, and they were popular. And Jack, who was big in the Foursquare church, Jack Hayford, now he's passed on. But this is in Charisma magazine. So I'm telling you, it's there. It's documented. And he wrote an article in the Charisma magazine, Jack Hayford did, on these ministers getting divorced. And he said it's horrible. And I guess what straw broke the back was the one pastor in Los Angeles. This is in the late 90s, or maybe even early 2000s. You would know his name if I told you who he was. But he was a close friend of Jack Hayford. And the man left his wife for some other lady. And he'd had it. So he went to Charisma magazine and wrote an article, and they put it in there. And you know what his suggestion was, or his antidote to divorce in the church? Stop it. It's wrong. And it can't happen. And we've got to stop divorcing. I'm like, Jack, you're a very smart man. And if you know Jack Hayford, very intelligent, very articulate. And but on this one, you're as dumb as a rock. And I say that kindly. Just stop? Oh, we never thought of that. I never thought that I could just stop. Wow, there's my deliverance. Just stop smoking. I never thought of that. Stop watching porn. Oh my God, it never occurred to me to stop. Thank you, Jack. You've got to be kidding me. That's what you offer? You know what Jimmy Swaggart said when he's after he got revelation on the cross and stuff, and he's on his way. I don't know where he's at now, but he's on his way. He may not be where we are. He's on his way, and we not be where we should be. We're on our way to. But he said this in the 80s and 90s. He said, I'd have guys come up to me, and this is when his crusades were. This is before his fall. Crusades, gigantic crusades. The man was anointed. You know that. May not like this message, but he was anointed in what he did. And he said people would come up to me. And he said, I vividly remember this guy saying, I'm a homosexual. And I don't want to be. And I really want deliverance. And I don't know I have tried everything, Brother Jimmy, Brother Swagger. I don't know. Please tell me what I need to do. Now, back then, he thought he knew. He said, I told him to pray more. I told him to fast more. And he needed to stop doing that. And he needed to read the Bible more. He needed to go to church more. He needed to surround himself with accountability partners. He said, I gave him a list. because I had the answer. He said, now looking back, I had no answer. Those are not answers. Stop it is not answers. Do more is not answers. Because the church doesn't have, the religious church doesn't have the answer. I'm sorry, it does not have the answer. So, what is the answer? It's supplied. The answer has already been supplied, called finished work. The answer is called rest. The answer is be still and know that He is God. Be still and trust the Holy Spirit. Be still, rest, and for it is God who is at work in you. And no one likes that because that means you don't do anything. Yes. Why? He's not demanding anything from us. Remember, when that running, I'm done. That's how it works. You keep trusting Jesus. He does the work. The battle is not yours. It's His, and He already won it, and you're the victor of it. It's already. You just have to have your eyes open to it, and that's the Holy Spirit's job, not mine. And this is what we try. We try to coerce people. We browbeat people into change. All this is behavior modification. It's not true fruit. It's behavior modification. It'll last so long until the willpower runs out and the guy's back doing what he did. How many times does his husband say, honey, I won't beat you up again, please. Don't call the police. I won't do it again. I promise. And he's good for 2 weeks. He had 2 weeks in him. 2 weeks worth of willpower not to beat you. And the minute you cross the line, after 2 weeks, he's done and he's at it again. All the promises that men make to women, I won't do that again. I won't do that again. And what happened? He's turned, and he's good for 2 weeks. And you see that after a while, you know the pattern. And that's the same way with us. We stop, we start again. We stop for 2 weeks, we pick it back up again. And it's a cycle. And it doesn't have to be. Religion keeps you in that religious cycle of performance, of try, do, to become what you already are by resting. Now, let me close with this. I got a few minutes left. So, law demands. Grace supplies. And the title today is Supply and Demand. We are under the supply, not the demand. Now, several weeks ago, I gave an illustration of the speed limit sign. And I made the statement that law demands. The speed limit is demanding that you go that particular speed limit. I said, what happens is God no longer demands. So now we're dead to the law. I said, that puts us on the Autobahn. Think about it. If we're dead to the law, then that puts us on a spiritual Autobahn. And remember what I said a few weeks ago? If you've got the accusation railed against you that you're preaching sloppy agape, greasy grace, hyper grace, that's because you're preaching it right. You've got to listen to that one. You've got to listen to that one. That's a good one. It's on demand, whether you're preaching the gospel right or wrong. I said, so we have a spiritual Autobahn that we're on. No laws. Christ is the end of the law. He fulfills it, removes it, and gives us Himself. No laws. I said, so now my 70 miles per hour can be whatever I want it to be. Except something happens within me. And I want to close with this. I had just bought a brand new sports car in 1983. It was the 1984 model Monte Carlo SS. And back then, it was a fast car. And my friend had a Corvette, faster car. And I had another friend who had an old El Camino, probably had a 350 in it. And we're all somewhere, and we're like, hey, let's go out to the mall. So I had my girlfriend with me at the time, and I wasn't married. And so we all take off onto the interstate because you had to go to the interstate to get to the mall. And it's about, 8 miles on the interstate. And I live in West Virginia, so it's not straight roads. It's, it curves. But if you're going 55, that's the speed limit at the time was 55 on the interstate. A sharp turn at 55 is not a sharp turn, because you're going 55. The faster you go, the sharper the turn becomes. And in West Virginia, you got a lot of these some turns. All right? So we get on the interstate, and we're not even planning this. It just happens. My friend's leading the way. He's in front of me. The Corvette's in front of me. I'm second. The El Camino's behind me. And he takes off. So I'm like, I'm going to be right up on him. I'm going to show him I can keep up with that Corvette. And my girlfriend says, you need to slow down. I'm like, we're good. And he keeps going faster. So I keep going faster. Guy behind me keeps going faster. I lie not. The best of my knowledge, I'm telling you, and I looked down and I saw 130 and we were going faster. I could no longer look at that speed limit because the real estate coming under my wheels was so fast that those long turns became very sharp turns because of the mileage, how fast we were going. And so anyway, I clocked at 150. He clocked at I let him go. This is where I'm going with this. He kept going and got to 180. I stopped at 150, and my friend stopped, I don't know, about 130 a long time ago. And you know what happened? I was on an Autobahn. It wasn't a real Autobahn. We made it an Autobahn, but something happened within me. Says, I'm done. I can't go any faster. I was starting to freak out. I'm telling you, I've never seen turns come so quick. And I'd ran those interstates a million times. But I never ran them that fast. And those turns became very sharp turns real quick. And I brought it down. He kept going. And my whole point, so what is that? My whole point is when I gave you this illustration several weeks ago, I only gave you half. That God takes away the law and we're on an Autobahn, no law. Well, the rest of the story and illustration is that God supplies, law demands, He delivers from the law and now supplies. And the supply is, I have the Holy Spirit in me saying, we're not doing that. Just like in the natural picture, something within me said, you can't go any faster than this. I couldn't. My nature won't go faster than that. His nature was able to go faster than that. My nature went faster than the guy behind me. But we were all at different places, and we slowed down at different places. But that was that inner clock, or that inner, whatever you call it, that inner thing that said, that's enough. I can go to Germany and get on the Autobahn, and yeah, there's no speed limit. I will create a speed limit in me. And that's what happens in us, that the Spirit in us does the work. We slow down, we stop, we start, we're done. He creates new drive desires. I'll see you next week. I'm completely out of time on the NRZ, the No Religion Zone.